Hi guys, and welcome to the Sunderland vs Rochdale match preview. So Sunderland do welcome Rochdale to the Stadium Light tomorrow, being Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff, of course. Now, looking at Rochdale, they're in a very, very poor run of form at the minute. They're only just above the relegation zone as I speak, and they've only won one in the last 15 games. But, you know, we've had it so many times this season where we've played teams that, you know, they have this crazy stat where they haven't scored a goal in like 5 games, or they haven't won in 10 or something like that. And it always ends up being us that is the breaker of that duck, and we end up losing or conceding. Do you know what I mean? We are that team that everyone seems to break records against, which is so frustrating. But I am confident going into this game. I look at Rochdale, and yes, they are a side I've always associated with good football in terms of possession football. But looking at their performances in recent weeks and speaking to a couple of fans, I think their issue is actually an issue that we've had in the past, and that is, yes, they have the ability to maintain possession, keep possession, but they're struggling to do anything with it, and it's very much backwards passing, sideways football that isn't coming to anything. Now, they do have their main goal scorer, Matty Lund, I believe. It is Matty Lund. Yeah, it is Matty Lund. 11 goals he scored this season, but he is out injured, so that's obviously a good thing for us. He's got 11 goals from midfield, but they do have a winger, Barr, I believe he's called, who's actually recently signed a pre-contract with Manchester City, which just shows what potential the lad has. I think he's only 18 years of age. He can play on the left or the right. I don't know whether he's been playing up top for them, but generally I think he is known as a winger. But, you know, quick, technically gifted, so he could be someone that we need to keep an eye on. But again, I think he's another player who isn't in a great run of form along with the rest of the Rochdale players. But us, of course, we're now 5 unbeaten. I think it's 5. It is 5, isn't it? We've got 3 wins and then a draw and then a win. Yeah, so 5 unbeaten. We can, you know, really go for it now. I think with a win this weekend, because we had a really shaky performance last time out. We still managed to get the win, but it was a very, very shaky performance, as I did allude to in my match preview. So the last game against Swindon, I wasn't happy with the performance at all. But of course, a win is a win. Of course, I'd take, if I managed to see, you know, the team get 3 points week in, week out on every game and we play poorly, I'd take it, of course. But my main worry and why I was so frustrated is that we played so poorly against a side that, in my opinion, were also very, very poor. And upcoming, after this Rochdale game, with no disrespect to Rochdale, we have 3 very, very difficult matches coming up against teams that are around us. And if we struggle against sides like Swindon, again, no disrespect, then God help us against teams like Pompey and Accrington, who have been flying this season, and Lincoln as well, who, yes, we've played well against this season, but it's not the same every game, you know. So yeah, that was my main concern. So going into this game, I'll give you my preferred lineup. I say preferred because usually that means that it's not my predicted lineup, which is true. But this week, for this match preview, I have just resorted to the fact that it's going to be 3 at the back, because he seems to be sticking with that. And I am recording this as well before hearing any kind of injury news, so I don't know if anyone like Flanagan or Wright's back or anyone like that. I don't know how bad the injury to Conor McLaughlin is. As I'm recording this, as I say, so this lineup may have changed had those players been back. In fact, it definitely would have done. But as of right now, this is my lineup, and let me explain my reasoning for this lineup. So as you can see, I've gone with a 3-4-3. There is Burge at the back. Now, in the back 3, we have O'Nien, Sanderson and Power. Of course, if Conor McLaughlin was available, I would have put him in the position where Power is, but as of right now, he's not available. As far as I'm aware, he might be in a few hours' time after this video is out. But Power, I think he does look very solid in defence for me this season. I do actually really like him. Yes, he's not the quickest, but I think he's intelligent. He's very good in the ball. And when you do have the likes of O'Nien and Power, yes, they are midfielders. They're both going to be defensively caught out at times. They are real footballers, because the midfielders, they can play with their feet, and not every team has that. You know, players who can bring it out from the back, and they do try and do that. Now, the key for me in this is the 2 in midfield, because what we were lacking so much in the Swindon game was any kind of attacking outlet or positive outlet from the middle 2, because with Winchester and Scowen, both of them together, they were so unbelievably defensive. Winchester was arguably better than Scowen, like I did say in the review to that game. He was breaking up play, and he never gave the ball away, don't get me wrong, but every pass was a sideways pass. Whereas with Scowen, he had opportunities to burst forward, but he was so hell-bent on going backwards at every single opportunity. So that gives us no outlet, zero outlet. So as you can see, I've gone for Winchester and Dan Neil. Will this happen? Never in a million years. Of course it won't. But Dan Neil, I believe, should be starting it. He must be thinking, what the hell do we have to do, particularly with all these injuries? Powers going into defence, O'Nien's going into defence, yet Dan Neil still can't get into his preferred position in midfield. So Winchester, I think, just to have him in there to break up the play. Dan Neil is a lot quicker, he's sharper, and I'm a bit more technically gifted. And I think he can break forward, and he's relatively creative going forward, and he's tenacious as well, so he can do that side of the game as well. So I'd like to see those two in the middle, and that could hopefully see the outlet from the middle third to the final third, which just didn't happen last time out. Now, as the wingers / wing backs, and I mean, to be fair, I think Rochdale, yes, they'll have a go in terms of possession, but I think there will be large periods again where we have possession. So I think with McFadzean and Gooch, I think going forward, McFadzean isn't terrible. It's defensively where he really winds me up, but I will get onto that shortly. Gooch and McFadzean there, I think Gooch, it speaks for himself. It is very, very hard working, although it can be frustrating going forward at times because you don't release the ball a bit early. But I think last game, I think he was probably the best out of the attacking lot, bar Wyke, because he was tracking back and working hard as well as breaking forward. And whereas Jones and McGeady, they were a little bit frustrating where they didn't track back. I know McGeady isn't known for tracking back. But Jones, the reason he's been dropped from this lineup for me is that I feel as though last time out, when he started, it was his first start, and I think he was very, very disappointing. I feel, he looked bright in pieces, but he would regularly, and this is just me talking about an isolated performance. I'm not saying Jones is a bad player, because I really, really rate the lad. I think he's a fantastic player. But he 9 times out of 10, he lost the ball, and then he made no effort to try and get it back. And I really, really dislike that. McGeady, he does at least make the attempt to get the ball back. Gooch, he's always going to fight back and track back, and that's why I put him in that position. And that's why Jones has been dropped today, because I feel like when he has a point to prove, he looks a lot better coming on from the bench, which I don't want to be the case, but that has been the case thus far. So McGeady is going to remain in the lineup for me. Maguire, he has to start. The last 2 games, he scored the last-minute equaliser against Crewe, and he come on, got the assist on Tuesday against Swindon for the winner. A lot of people say, this doesn't have much pace in this lineup, but if you have Gooch and McFadzean on the overlap for McGeady and Maguire, who like to tuck in anyway, I think that could be very, very dangerous. The one thing for me, and I will get onto McFadzean, like I said I would do, McFadzean for me, and rightly so, I think if you keep an eye on him, he's absolutely shit scared of Haydn McGeady. Because there's been times where he gets to the byline and I'm screaming for him to get the ball in, but he's looking for McGeady, because if you look, sometimes off the ball, McGeady's on his ear and he's screaming at him because McFadzean is constantly making mistakes. So that actually terrifies McFadzean. And McGeady does rightly so have a pop at him for certain things, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't crack on with your game and just look to give the ball to McGeady every time you get it. But that's why I want to see a bit more of a fluid partnership between McGeady and McFadzean. McFadzean, I think he's been holding off those overlapping runs a little bit because he wants McGeady to run the show, and he gets a bit scared now to go around McGeady and do that. But hopefully he does, because even though I've said it before, McFadzean, I don't think he's a great player. In fact, I think he's pretty goddamn poor. But Vokins fills me with zero confidence as well. So it could be one of the two, either of the two. Vokins, terrible defensively. Going forward, I just don't think he's as good as McFadzean, unfortunately. So, it's, like I say, it's fighting, it's choosing the lesser of two evils almost. But yeah, go for McGeady and Maguire around Wyke. And a lot of people will look at this and say, where's the pace? We should have Diamond and Jones. And that's very true, because Rochdale do have a very ageing defence with the likes of McShane in there, former Sunderland man, of course. And I think Charlie Wyke will have him quite comfortably, in my opinion, although McShane does have a lot of experience. But I think just have that creativity around the edge of the box from McGeady and Maguire, and if Neil can be that outlet between the middle to the final third, I think that could be a lot more dangerous than people think. Because I've seen people say that, in the comments before, I've had conversations with people say that I don't put enough pace in the squad. But I think that should be enough. You can't win games with just pace alone a lot of the time. But if that was the case, I wouldn't mind seeing Diamond thrown in there or Jones. I just think that would be a really solid lineup and more than enough to win this game against Rochdale. So that was my lineup, and I know I babbled on a little bit more than I usually do, but I feel like I really had to explain myself at that time, because sometimes I'll put a lineup out and then I'll get a lot of grief in the comments saying, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? I understand, I have looked at every avenue. I just feel like the creativity of Maguire and McGeady around the edge, whilst you've got the likes of Gooch on the overlap and McFadzean on the other. I think that should be more than enough to take on Rochdale. But in terms of my prediction, I'm going to go for a win, and I think we will play a lot better this time out. You would hope anyway. You know, if a defender does come back like a Flanagan or a Wright, I don't think they will, I'm not too sure, or McLaughlin, I'd like to see Power push back into midfield, because I can't stand another showing of Winchester and Scowen, unfortunately. You know, and Power in the past, I have slated him a little bit and gone in on him because he has been very poor in midfield. But over recent weeks, when he has gone back into the middle, with Ledbetter mainly, he's looked a lot better. He's improved massively, and he's been a lot more positive, forward thinking. So that's what I would like to see. But this is going off the basis of having the injuries of like McLaughlin, Bailey Wright, Tom Flanagan. That's what this lineup's about. But anyway, in terms of my score prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-0 Sunderland win. Hopefully we do keep a clean sheet. That's a big thing for me, particularly at home. And hopefully we make it easy for ourselves this time, rather than playing as poorly as humanly possible. I know a lot of the players are going to be a bit leggy, and they've looked a bit leggy. For example, McGeady, he did look quite tired in the last game, so it wouldn't surprise me if he was dropped and Jones is put back in there. And that's the thing, Jones doesn't have an excuse, because he hasn't played that much football. He doesn't have the excuse of being leggy, because he's only been having 15-20 minutes here and there, so he doesn't have that excuse that McGeady does to have that poor attitude and not getting back. So I'm really putting his all into his performance. So anyway, either way, that's it. 2-0 for me. I think the score will be, fingers crossed anyway. So you guys let me know who you would play, what would your lineup be, and what would your score prediction be as well. Again, let me know in the comments down below. But if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button for me. It'd be massively, massively appreciated. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already, to become a fully fledged member of the Sarny Army. But for now, you take care and stay jamming.